Hey everybody and welcome to the channel. In this video we're talking more about the class changes coming up in the Elsweyr chapter, specifically Dragonknight class changes. Before we get there, just a quick reminder that I am reviewing all the class changes on my channel this week. I've also covered all of the new and updated gear sets in a separate video. Links for all of those videos will be down in the description below if you want to check those out. And as always, remember to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to turn on notifications. You can expect to see a lot more Elsweyr content on this channel in the future, including many more build videos. So let's jump right into it. Starting off in the Ardent Flame tree, we have an update to Fiery Breath. So they increase the damage of the initial hit by 200%, which is quite a lot. The idea here is to make it on par with the standard AoE damage structure, which they talk about a lot in these patch notes, trying to standardize how much AoEs hit for, how much single target abilities hit for. So they've made that more in line, which should mean more damage. Fiery Grip got a damage buff, which is good to see. It got buffed up by 20%. Basically, gap closers were supposed to have more damage, and so they did buff that up a little bit, which is nice to see. Inferno, this was a really interesting change. So Inferno is that little flame that follows you around, and the two morphs are either damaging or healing. Now, the damage morph did scale with stamina as far as I know, but the healing morph never did. So what they did now is the ability and its morphs are now more like Flames of Oblivion, which is the damaging morph, where they scale with your highest offensive stats. So either weapon damage stamina or spell damage magicka. They also increase the power of these abilities by 5%, so that's looking really good. Now, why this is interesting to me is I really like the healing morph of this skill called Cauterize. This has always been a really nice skill to run on a magicka Dragonknight for the extra passive healing. Kind of like a heal over time, but it actually gives you more of like a burst heal every few seconds. It seems now like we can run this on a stamina Dragonknight. It looks like the heal will actually scale with stamina now in this patch, so that's really cool. I actually might run this on my stamina Dragonknight. This is an interesting change. Also, Flames of Oblivion got tweaked a little bit, where it seems like you get to hit an extra enemy, so that's pretty cool actually. So instead of one enemy, you'll hit two. Interesting. All right, moving on to Lava Whip. This ability got a bit of a cost reduction, 5%, so that's nice to see. It's always been a very costly spammable, so it's nice to see that coming down more in line with other spammables. And the Molten Whip morph, not really used a whole lot. It used to grant you passive weapon and spell damage. So now there's a new buff called Seething Fury. It's 33% damage to your next whip. And also 125 weapon and spell damage. Every time you activate an Ardent Flame ability that isn't Molten Whip. This is really interesting. So not only that, it looks like you can stack this bonus now up to 3 times within 5 seconds. So 125 times 3, what is that, 375? 375 spell damage, that's pretty juicy. That's nice. Let's check out the comment here. So basically they're talking about how the Molten Whip morph never really compared to Flame Lash, and they wanted to bring it up with their own kind of interesting mechanic. Flame Lash has its own mechanics, and so kind of a different mechanic here, casting other Ardent Flame abilities to stack this passive weapon and spell damage. So this is really interesting. I think this is a cool change. It doesn't hurt because, I mean, who actually used this morph? Not a lot of people ever used it, so I like this. Good job. So Searing Strike, that's your claw. It looks like it got tweaked a little bit. So they wanted to standardize damage over time effects, basically, so the duration went down a little bit, but the damage increased. So the way this ability used to work is you used to get the damage to, you got the initial hit of the claw, and then you got a dot damage at half a second, I think it was. So they're bringing that more in line with other damage over time effects, so you won't get that burst damage, but they increase the damage to try to make the overall net damage roughly the same. So we'll see how that works out. Looking at the Draconic power skill line next, some really nice buffs here. DKs did good, I think, on these patch. A lot of these look to me like they're buffs, so really nice. Coagulating blood got buffed by 19%. This was already a pretty solid heal. I mean, it was okay, so it should be even better now. Dark Talons. Dark Talons got a buff as well, so the initial hit gets 25% more damage. Really nice. This just makes it more in line with other AoE abilities. Dragon Leap. Did Dragon Leap really need a buff? I don't know, but it got one. So they increased the radius to 8 meters, which is huge. Huge. Wow. This is going to be fun. So it also applies a more aggressive snare. Oh man. More aggressive? What does that even mean? If you weren't aware, these kind of like gap closers, they apply kind of like basically a snare to make it easier to land. And now this is quote unquote more aggressive. I don't know what that means, but it's going to be nice for DKs. Okay, moving on to hardened armor. Instead of increasing the duration, they're increasing the size. They're making the tooltip state the value, which is always good. Inhale actually got a buff as well, so lots of buffs here. So they increased the damage of the initial hit by 25%. That's really nice. The explosion also got buffed by 7%. And then this is interesting. Remove the 6 target cap for the heal. Interrupt and resource restore. So there's no target cap on the heal. This is pretty amazing for tank builds especially. Wow, okay. It's officially a rule breaker. Nice. Okay, reflective scale. This is where a lot of the talk has been, rumors and whatnot, about the changes to the DK this patch. So the skill was renamed to protective scale, pretty much a rework completely. So instead of the pure reflect mechanic, it's now 50% damage reduction from projectiles, and that happens with the base and all 3 morphs. So Dragonfire scale, which was the damaging morph, no longer increases the damage, since it's not a reflect anymore, it's an absorption. But now it creates its own projectiles, so that's kind of cool, I think. So you launch a fiery orb that deals flame damage, and the effect can occur every half second. That's cool. Actually, kind of like that. And then reflective plate, no other changes. So this still has the snare immunity and snare removal. So the main thing is that it's no longer a reflect, you guys. It's damage absorption, 50% damage reduction from projectiles, which is a pretty big change if you think about how the skill used to function. Let's just read the comment here. So reflects were unhealthy gameplay, according to the comment, because they gave 100% mitigation on top of the damage return. So basically it was like all or nothing, especially for certain builds like Magicka Nightblades, Magsorks in some cases, which I agree with. It's, you know, as a Mag Nightblade, really hard to fight a Mag DK. So we'll see. The 50% damage is a good reduction. It's definitely going to be an adjustment to playstyle. I think, you know, some people will think maybe this is better because you always have the 50% damage reduction. It's not capped at like 3 projectiles anymore. And then some people obviously will like the previous version where it reflected 100% of the damage. So definitely an adjustment here. Let's move on though to Earthen Heart. So Ash Cloud got a buff. More buffs for the DK. 15% healing. Eruption just got tweaked a little bit for the standard damage over time rules. Cinderstorm also got a slight buff to healing, 4% there. As far as the Earthen Heart passive, this is what gave you a longer duration on some of your skills. So they basically just streamlined these, which I like. I really like them doing this. Magma Armor got buffed. So 12 seconds is going to be really nice on that. Molten Weapons is up to 42 seconds. Obsidian shield is up to 8 seconds. That's nice. Petrify, they don't need to change that. Stonefist went down a little bit, but that's really not a big deal. And then they just changed the scaling slightly on Obsidian shield. So overall, a lot of really nice buffs to the Dragonknight for the Elsweyr chapter. The only thing that could be probably considered as a nerf is the rework of scales to protective scale, and really it just, we'll have to see how that plays out. So that's going to wrap it up for this patch note review for the Dragonknight class changes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to leave a like for me. And in the comments below, let me know if you play a Dragonknight and what you think of the changes, especially the changes to reflective scale. Do you think this is a good change, a bad change, and how is this going to affect your play style? So until then, I'll see you guys around in the next video. Thanks.